Hi everyone, I'm Kristie Ennis from Spark Ed Consulting, and last night we held our first live webinar on blended learning, and many of you requested a video copy of that so that you could watch it with your colleagues or because you had to miss the live time last night. So I am going to record this clean copy of the webinar so you don't have to watch me share my screen, stop sharing my screen, suffer through wait time while I'm asking my participants questions and waiting for the crickets to die down. So I'll start by sharing the slides, and I will send you also the link to that along with the handout if you'd like to use it with your colleagues. Give me 1 second. And here we go. So to start, just a little bit of background. If you want to follow us on social media, we have a new Twitter handle just for Spark Ed, where we will be sharing instructional ideas, upcoming workshop news, and such. It is at the top right corner of the screen, Spark Ed LLC. And we also have a hashtag, Find Your Ed Spark, that we will be using to spread good ideas, but also to highlight other people's good ideas when we see them, anything that sparks your passion for education and ours too. By way of introduction, very quickly, as I said, my name is Kristie Ennis. That's my Twitter handle, and my team teacher's name is Chris Bronke, and his Twitter handle is there. Our hashtag for the blended learning experience is Bronke3, which would be his last name with third period. We work very closely together, even though he's in Chicago suburb and I am in Louisville, Kentucky. We first connected through our work with NCTE's CEL, which is a great place for any English teacher who's looking for some leadership advice. If you're in a new leadership mentor type of role and you're unsure who's supposed to support you, often you feel like the middle person, right? You're not the boss, but you're not in the classroom, or maybe you have a hybrid role. That was what I was looking for at the time. I had left the traditional classroom and moved into a district support role. So Chris became my mentor through NCTE's program with emerging leaders. We sort of happened to be in each other's educational world by happenstance, in that I needed a classroom and I was in Chicago and I didn't have one, so I borrowed his. And this project really was born from that for me. And Chris has been wanting to try a full blended learning approach with no homework, self-paced for the students, self-guided and self-paced for the students, and completely standards-based with no traditional grading system for a long time. So the two of us found that we had shared values and interests, and we got together and piloted this last year with one unit that we co-planned and co-facilitated, and now we are full-on blended. So if you'd like to follow that journey, you can check out the hashtag. It goes back to last April, March, so check it out. So that was kind of our why, but what this turned into was our own definition of blended learning. So something I found out last night when I did this webinar live was that people have similar but slightly different ideas about what blended means. One thing we all agreed on last night was that blended, to all the teachers that were or educators, I should say, some of them were district personnel. Our definition for blended included traditional instruction mixed with flipped or digital resources or instruction. But I wanted to be clear, Chris and I's definition for blended learning for the purposes of this project became these bullets, which is a lot. And we are not suggesting, if you are super excited to try this, that you have to do all of these things. We, in fact, are building a 6-hour web course that has 1 hour for several parts of these things. So you would need to consider which parts of these will work for you. We have absolute district and parent support for this. So just be aware of all of that going into my explanation. You could certainly try any one piece of this at a time before you try to roll out this whole model. So that being said, our blended model is one-to-one, so the students have Chromebooks that they are assigned from the school and they take those home every night. So those computers are checked out to them just like a book would be. It's a self-guided environment, so the students have 4 units that they can choose from that we pre-planned over the summer and then refined at the semester break, that are on Google Drive in a Google Slide format. There are links to supporting documents, videos, any sort of supporting, resource, if you want to call it, that they might need, including links to videos of us doing flipped instructions. So it might be Chris and I doing a think aloud on a really complex poetry analysis. So if the student is struggling with that or needs more clarification, they can watch that short video rather than us needing to be available in real time to do that. There also are links to a model, either written by a student or one of us. So those are the types of resources we provide to make this a self-guided environment. The students can work on any one of those units at any time as long as they demonstrate mastery or progress toward mastery on every one of our standards by the end of the semester. So that leads to the second bullet, and that is the entire unit is standards or skills based. The Illinois state standards are a version of the Common Core state standards. So we have English is English, right? We have grammar mechanics, we have writing, we have reading, speaking, and listening. They do not, in full disclosure, have a standardized test for 9th grade students. So we are not in test prep mode, yet we're always in that mode because students need to master the skills and the standards. So we are just using good pedagogy and student choice to get them to demonstrate their skills and abilities. I will show you a model of 2 of the skills and then the criteria for meeting those skills. You can call it a rubric if you want. It's more like, here's the skill you have to demonstrate based on the standard, and here's the criteria that will show us that you have demonstrated that. We don't give homework, meaning there is no separately assigned standalone homework. However, students have created homework for themselves, and there were a lot of tears in December because they were using their time very wisely for the most part during the school day on a 45-minute class period. But they found that if they spent a whole class period reading 3 days a week, because that was part of one of the units, that they didn't have enough time to write and edit and revise and peer collaborate. So they ended up having to do a lot of work outside of school in order to demonstrate mastery in the standards by December. Some of them didn't make it. So I'll talk a little bit about that later. The next one, I already explained. We facilitate this through Google Drive, Slides, Docs, and Sheets. We do not use Google Classroom. We don't like that format. It's real clunky to us, and it is not, Google Classroom isn't set up to directly link to their learning management system at the school for grades, so there's really no benefit to using that other than maybe a place for messaging, which we don't find that we need. It could certainly be done through Google Classroom, however, if that's something that you're either required to do or you like to use. We do individualized and small group instruction. We very rarely ever do whole class instruction after the very first more heavily guided unit that we did at the very beginning of the school year to introduce this format, the technology, and the expectations for this work. So it really frees us up to give the next bullet, which is regular one-on-one feedback. Sometimes it makes sense to do small group feedback But every single student in this class out of 28 gets one-on-one attention every week if they are ready for it. And if they are not ready for it, we still check in with them to find out what's going on. We have divided the class in half, but there are many times when I'm not available because I don't live there and I am a full-time consultant and doc student, so I can't always be there live. That Chris has to facilitate all 28 feedback loops. So that's totally possible because we don't have to spend time in front of the classroom doing direct instruction. That makes sense. Progress tracking, the two of us have a sheet, Google Sheet for each student, and it has all the standards across the top, and we make notes every time we talk to these students about their progress so that the two of us can share that. He's still the teacher of record. He has to assign the grades in the end, so he needs to be able to see what I talk about with the students as well if he doesn't get to them. Virtual team teaching is what we do Mondays and Fridays, mostly Mondays. I have committed to being available to come into the classroom live if needed to do any sort of small group or whole group teaching or addressing the students, asking or answering questions, or meeting with students one-on-one in real time. But I am available all the time via email and Google Docs. So the students email both of us, they copy both of us on every email they send so that we can both see what's going on with feedback and align the way that we give feedback. So we're sending the same message to the students about what kind of improvement we need to see or how well they are progressing toward the standards. This is a nice check and balance system. When you're all by yourself, things get can be very biased toward a certain approach. And so the two of us actually have a very different approach to teaching and feedback. So it's nice to have a balance and to be able to ask each other questions like, well, you responded this way to the student. Did you really mean this? Or why did you use that particular method of feedback? What were you hoping to get out of that? So it's a really reimagining of the PLC model, and that we are co-teaching this. We use team teaching as a term because co-teaching tends to refer to special education support. We have co-planned, co-facilitated, and we give feedback together in a split method, like pretty equal, in fact, 14 kids and 14 kids for the whole school year. So that's a whole different PD that we're offering, but that is our approach. And then finally, the students follow a mastery defense model to ultimately share how they have mastered the standards or made progress toward mastery. And I have a short clip that I can show you. We have two of those videoed recorded for you if you'd like to use that model or you're interested in how the kids did that. So if you've been through a master's program or a doctoral program and you've had to defend your body of work to a committee, that is exactly the model that we use here. There are no multiple choice tests, and the proof is in the product, right? So that is blended learning for us. So all of those pieces make up our approach. As I said before, please don't be overwhelmed by this. You could use any one piece of this at a time and make it work. Part of what we do at Spark Ed is tailor our professional development workshops or web courses to what you need. So if you're interested in us doing that to help you roll this out next school year, or even to try to roll out, like we did, one unit of this at the end of this school year, let me know, contact us. I'll show you that information at the end. And we can absolutely tailor this for you. This is just how we have done it. So I shared a little bit about the why, but ultimately a lot of my research for my doctoral program turned out to be about reimagining the PLC. What makes a team work, right? Because if you try to do all this by yourself, you could certainly do a great job, but I hinted at this when I talked about how we both are copied on every single email that a student sends or we respond to. It gives us help. PLCs in their original construction or sort of goal were supposed to make the work more exciting, and we're supposed to capitalize on the differing expertise and experiences and backgrounds of all the teachers involved in that PLC. As I said, Chris and I don't even live in the same city. We come from different backgrounds, yet we're both teachers, high school English teachers. So we share that, and we certainly share content knowledge and years of experience. But we come at things very differently, very differently. Not only he's a guy, I'm a girl. I'm a very maternal teacher, and he's not a very paternal teacher. I'm a very college model, and he is not. He really loves writing, and I really love reading. So this is, we had to figure out why it seems to work for us and determine our shared values before we could get into all this innovation, right? So we kind of used the Penny Kittle, Kelly Gallagher 180 days approach to determine what our non-negotiables were and what we wanted to get out of this. We both were very frustrated with the traditional grading system because we had really no guarantee about what all of these students, and mine too at the college level, what students could do when they leave our classroom. And that is scary. There's no multiple choice test that's standardized by the state that could guarantee that our students could read or write with the quality that we wanted. And a traditional 90 to 100 or 93 to 100 grading scale in high school and college rewards compliance. Like, you have completed this assignment. Wonderful. Most college classes don't even grade on rubrics, not really. So we definitely don't use a standards-based system. But competency-based grading scales are really becoming popular, and that's being thrown around as a new term. Standards-based grading has been, in the forefront for the last probably 10 years in some way, shape, or form. So we developed a system that is just a 1 or a 0. You either demonstrate the standard in multiple ways or you don't. And the students have to defend their progress and their evidence. And we have evidence of their growth, their work, their ability to master and demonstrate. That is way more than I ever knew about any multiple choice score. So that brought us together for sure. And then we both believe that a blended model where there is a face-to-face teacher every day, or at least available synchronously, virtually, is better and more effective than solely traditional or solely virtual. I teach several asynchronous college composition courses that are some of the most vulnerable courses in college, and students fail repeatedly because they do not have a connection, I believe, because they do not have a connection with a professor or human beings to either hold them accountable and or support them as they learn, to push them and support them as they learn. The numbers are staggering as to how many students fail and have to repeat English 101 or 100 level courses because they take them solely online with no live requirement. So we felt that these things brought us together, and that's sort of why we did this. So one of the things I said I would share with you, this is 2 of the 8 standards we determined, or skills that we determined the students would need to master in order to get a grade, basically, but also to be what we considered ready to move on to the next semester. So controlling language and discipline-specific vocabulary comes straight from the English standards, and we co-wrote these. Chris wrote the initial draft, shared it with me. We talked about the language. He got permission from both his administrators and his department to sort of use this scale and this criteria for grading. And then we shared it with the parents. They have a parent night type of thing where the parents come but the students don't come. And he sent home letters to the parents so that everyone knew what we were doing, because this is a huge paradigm shift. Parents did not come up with this type of grading system, so they really don't understand why their kid doesn't have a grade. And the kids don't understand it either. I mean, it has been major. We have seen, it has revealed to us how grade-driven these students are and how emotional they are about it, how much that grade represents some of their self-worth. And that is really disturbing to us. So this has been a major shift for everyone, but it feels right to us. It feels right to us. We wish that we had had it. So these are just two of them. Certainly you have to work with your PLC and your department and your administrators to determine what yours are. We had 8 for the first semester, and then we added 2 for the second semester, but we kept the rest of the 8 so that the students could then demonstrate with more complex evidence in the second semester the same skills. We started out with that soft rollout because we did in fact have 9th grade students who are coming from an 8th grade middle school class. And, you know, 9th grade transition is tough, even for these kids who, I'll just tell you, come from a very affluent suburb of Chicago. They have, most of them have every advantage as far as, you know, parent support or family support. It's not a Title I socioeconomic environment. These kids have taken an entrance sort of exam to place them into an honors class. So all of them have tested at reading level. They can write clearly. Now, that's not to say that they produce beautiful things. Certainly, we have had a lot of students who needed significant support with their writing. But I just want to be clear that we tried this out with students who are generally very motivated to do well and who do not cause, like discipline issues. Attendance is also very high in this class. So our next step is to roll this into sort of different populations. So if you are really interested in trying this, we would love to pilot it with you and provide support to you. So please let me know if you're interested in trying it with a sort of different group of students. This unit was called the heart of the class, and it had all of the procedures, or not even procedures, just sort of the structure of the class so that we could get the students familiar with how we would run a self-directed class, how we would give them multiple opportunities within a Google slide deck to work on their own pace, but also have to show some progress through learning activities and short writing activities and peer work, meetings with the teacher, and then ultimately what Chris has coined the individual demonstration of learning, which would be the summative for the unit. We also plan these by skill or type of writing, mode of writing, if you will. This one was a letter. So the students had an opportunity to demonstrate multiple standards, progress toward mastery in multiple standards in this one. The overarching umbrella theme for the whole class is privilege. So within that, each of the units have some sort of connection to identity or privilege or multicultural literacy. Identity is another theme. So in this one, the students had to write a letter after reading things like James Baldwin. They had to write a letter to someone who had shaped their identities. And that's tough for a 9th grader to have perspective on. So this was a really interesting way to start. And many of them used their identity letters to show progress toward mastery in the defense at the end of the semester. So we felt this was pretty successful, but I just wanted to sort of explain that we didn't just throw them to the wolves with all of these units. We had to give them a little bit of a soft guided approach to this so they understood what to do when we sort of turned them loose. Then as we went, I said we gave regular feedback. The students have to do regular check-ins with us. they did this on Flipgrid. So if you're not familiar, check it out. You can get a free teacher account. We would just ask them, hey, by Sunday night, we want you to do a quick Flipgrid to tell us what you're working on, what you're struggling with, and what you'd like us to help you with. And I love that because I fly on to different places for consulting almost once a week. So I can watch these on the plane as long as I have Wi-Fi. And I can just sit there and listen to them and make notes in my Google Sheet. And I have a clear plan of trends so that we can talk about small group instruction or flipped instruction or models or resources. And then also, I have a record of it. So if a parent ever comes or if we need to explain what's going on with the student, we have sort of evidence, if you will. Google Drive, you can see here that these are folders. I have one for every student, even if they're not in my group that I'm focused on. And the students share all their documents with us so that we can provide feedback directly on them. We do not use paper. No, we do not. So I don't ever have to worry about that. It wouldn't work with virtual teaching if there was paper. Right? That just wouldn't work. So the kids do not write on paper unless they are physically annotating something, and that would be for them. We don't grade those annotations. So that would be only for them. Some of them do like that. They prefer that. But ultimately, if they want it to count for progress toward mastery, they're going to have to find a way to show it to us digitally so they can snap a picture or scan it if needed. And we have a flexible schedule in that Mondays, I said, I'm usually available. Everyone comes to the physical classroom and meets as one. He does any updates on schedule or things that we want to see done, pacing, any short instruction. I might come in and do one-on-ones. Monday is for that. We kind of all meet together. And then he has permission second semester now that we've got a good general sense that the students are responsible enough to do it. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, he does a rotating check-in with the students. So there's 3 groups. So one group group A goes on Tuesday, so on and so forth. And this is their cafeteria. And he has permission to take the rest of the students, all of the students, into there. They can sit in small groups at tables, they can sit on the floor, they can sit on the wall, whatever they want to do, and he can do his small group check-ins and still watch everyone to make sure everybody's okay. Additionally, students can request to go to the Library Media Center. He works closely with the librarians, and that's another option for them. So it's a very flexible situation that honors responsible behavior and treats these students like young adults. And, ultimately, if they misuse it or they're not making progress, then we just take that option away. It hasn't happened, but it did. We would. And then Friday, they all come back together in the classroom. And a lot of times Fridays are for doing a Flipgrid or, completing some sort of reflection or just working, hammer down, let's get some work done, let's do peer review or check in with the teacher. So the mastery defense model, a lot of people are very curious about. If you're watching this from Jefferson County Public Schools or a Kentucky school, the backpack or the mastery defense model has been really popular this year. It was rolled out over the summer in JCPS at the Deeper Learning Symposium. And basically, this is a take on what you do when you defend a master thesis or an action research project as a doctoral candidate. And these 9th graders knew that they had 8 standards to demonstrate progress toward in order to get the grade that they wanted. And so this is just a quick clip, which I will send you the link to in the Google Slides. I will not show 16 minutes of this awesome student talking, but I just want to show you just a little bit of what it looks like. So he prepared a Google Slide presentation with evidence either copied and pasted from his individual demonstrations of learning or his learning activities, or he screenshotted work and put it into this and then explained it. So what he's doing here is claim evidence reason, right? I deserve an A because I did this. I did it in multiple ways, so I deserve an A. or a B or whatever he determined. So just a quick little clip of Quentin here. Oh, just joking. You can watch that on your own time. And if you have trouble playing that in the slideshow, I'll just send you the links. We actually have two recorded. So we have Quentin and we have Mia. Mia did not master all of her standards in the first semester. So she took an incomplete for the semester and has since mastered. She actually worked really hard over Christmas break on her own because she just would not be defeated. That is one of the sort of unexpected benefits to this. The students are working more outside of class, even though we don't require them to. And if they use their time wisely in class, they would not need to work outside of class. And we know that because many students mastered all 8 standards before the defense first semester. So yeah, so she was one that didn't. So you can see both of those on our YouTube channel, and I'll send you a link. So we talked about this. This is our process. And I wanted to show you real quickly some of the results. So here are pictures of the class. If you notice, we have a very, I don't know what you want to call it, homogeneous class. We have 21 girls. We only have 3 students of color. And we have no ELL students, no special ed students. So just be aware that this is the group that we started with, but these students struggled too. They struggled because we would not accept, work that was not mastering the standard. We just kept giving them feedback and feedback and feedback, and they kept refining and refining until they got to a point where we thought, you know what, according to our criteria, this is mastery demonstration. And if not, we just kept telling them they were progressing. And it was a struggle for them. They were not used to quality over quantity and compliance. And I don't know a lot of students that are used to that, to be honest. And this is a true college preparatory approach. It is also working on a lot of the quote-unquote soft skills, the grit and the resilience and the growth mindset model that students need for life. So I really do think that that has been one of the major benefits. But if you read these quotes from the students, like, this was very hard for me to wrap my head around, right? I like that when I go home, I don't have to do English homework, but I can do it if I want to work on it, or if I'm in a good place, or if I want to keep reading my book and then write something about it, or reach out to my teacher. Additionally, we had a lot of good feedback about the virtual team teaching model. Also, the collaboration with the classmates, and you can see some of these pictures. They're doing small group. I mean, here's a student facilitating that. We have students taking pictures of notes. We have the 2 of us doing a live chat to help work through some of the difficult things. And we also have me doing a virtual meeting with a student check-in who hadn't shown a lot of evidence to that point. And I was having to have a hard conversation with him. Like, I have to see what you've been doing. Otherwise, we've got problems. So, all of these things are happening at any given time. And just imagine if your admin walked in and had no idea what was going on. He or she would probably think, this is nuts. What is going on in here? The thing is, if you ask any one of those students what they are doing or what standard or skill they're working on, every single one of those 28 students will be able to tell you. And I or Chris would be able to tell you at any moment where every student is on their progress. And that is more than I can ever say I could have done when I taught in a traditional setting. So ultimately, the only due date we have is the end of the semester. The only grades we have are 1 at the very end. There's no homework to assign or grade, and there are no set assignments. They're all learning activities and individual demonstrations of learning or summatives. This frees you up as a teacher, which is always a winning situation. You work bell to bell to facilitate and to help and to provide feedback in a true workshop model, but you don't work outside of school except to reflect on what's been going on, make any adjustments, and respond to email. That is literally the only thing that I do outside of class time. It is so freeing, but it is also invigorating. And when you're doing this much innovation, it just keeps you wanting to go to work the next day. So I hope you found something in here that you'd like to try. We have many things available on our website. So if you want to check that out, it's findyouredspark.com. We offer coaching, personalized coaching, e-learning. Like I said, we're going to be doing some pre-recorded 1 hour portions of this in a total 6-hour package. And we also do live workshops, so we can come to you and do PD for your district or your department. But just reach out to us and let us know. Also, we have a dedicated Facebook group that is private, so you can request to join that if you'd like to be in there. We share motivational quotes and great ideas that people we work with are using to spark students and teachers. So if you're interested in that, please join us. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this and got some good ideas. And I'll see you next time.